Hi everyone, welcome to Agilisium Insight Track. Today we are talking about prior authorization, one of the continuous process in healthcare. With me we have Jnanaram, our functional domain expert in pharma, commercial and market access. Jnanaram, welcome to our show. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Vikash. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, for our audience, please introduce yourself.
Sure, Vikash. Happy to always be here. I'm Jnanaram. I'm a functional consultant here at Agilisium. I've been here for 3 years. I predominantly work in omnichannel engagements, market access engagements, and a little bit of Salesforce effectiveness functions. To be very clear, I work at the intersection of pharma commercial strategy and the technology landscape. As you have mentioned, rightly mentioned, we are going to discuss about prior authorization and reauthorizations, right? So for today's discussion and interaction, prior authorization and reauthorization exactly is the gap between when a drug gets approved and the patient actually receiving it. That gap is where the PA cycles and RA cycles live, and that's where most of the access problem starts. So that's where the entire access dynamics works.
Great. Listeners, if you are a reimbursement expert or a liaison between the medical teams and the reimbursement team, this podcast is for you. So, yes, Jnanaram, everyone knows a PA is painful. But when you are in the room with a pharma commercial team, I just want to know what are they not actually seeing?
Yeah, because that's a good question. To be very precise, there is always this aspect of revenue leakage, right? They are not seeing that revenue leakage in their dashboards, in their PPTs, in their meetings and discussions. Usually, pharma companies and biotech companies track new patients. When a patient starts a therapy, they track their adherence, their persistence. But pharma and biotech companies are not tracking how many prescriptions that followed between the prescribing moment and the PA approval. To be very clear, those are the lost revenue events with no clear attribution. The data basically to see them simply does not exist in most biotech and pharma organizations because the PA process, as of now, usually lives in faxes, phone calls that actually generate no structured information or structured data.
So, do you say still being conducted in a traditional way how data analysis has been done?
No, predominantly the PA process and the RA process are routed through faxes, calls, not
Okay.
so digitally savvy is what I am trying to explain.
So why don't we touch upon the numbers? Like what would stop someone cold in this PA process?
Sure. This process predominantly or mostly involves payers, providers, and patients, right?
Yes.
In this context, physicians or HCPs usually spend close to 8 to 16 hours. I mean, 8 hours usually in a week. And on some weeks, they would spend close to 16 hours, which is actually half of their working week on these paperwork, paper trial. They don't specifically spend that time on clinical care and patient care. And the average turnaround time for a PA cycle is close to 5 days. That is exactly 4.2 days. And for specialty medications, it even runs 3 weeks. And another interesting fact is 1 in 3 patients abandon their prescribed therapy because of these delays. And as I mentioned, close to 80 to 90 percentage of these PA workflows are still on fax and phone. Um, the medical associations across the country, across the globe, especially AMA, um, is calculating that the administrative waste is estimated at millions of dollars, basically. So, to be precise, hundreds of millions of dollars. So, these are all the numbers that we need to take into consideration, which are very much important when we emphasize about PA and RA acceleration.
Got it, Nyanaram. What I see that the time frame is huge. The gap between conducting an PA and RA is huge. That's what I understand from your data. In this current world, right, being AI is dominating most of the industries, especially pharma and so on. There is a cost leakage. There is a time involved, which which in return is affecting the farmer's business as well. And as you said, the patient access is also being affected here. So why hasn't it been solved yet?
Yeah. We do have quite number of reasons. First, I would say misaligned incentives. So the payers they benefit from the delayed reimbursements. Because of that, the providers will be bearing the cost. And the manufacturers I mean, the biotech and pharma companies, they can only watch through the lens of intermediaries. The patient who is in the system has no power. This is one of the major reason. The second fix I would say is the infrastructure is not solid yet. We need to fix the infrastructure, the FHIR APIs, the open EHR data. All of these foundational sources are only available in the last maybe 4 to 5 years. We were able to solidify these sources in the last 4 to 5 years. And on top of this, solving a PA problem requires someone to basically build simultaneously for these three fundamentally different users. You have your patients, you have your providers, you have your payers as well. We need to have an infrastructure that accommodates all of these three different stakeholders or personas. That's why it's not being solved. There are a lot of players who are trying to solve it. We all are trying to do it. Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, before we jump into the next segment, I know you have a real case study to explain, and you and your team have built a real solution which can help address these problems. While I do the research before every podcast, the interesting number that came my way was almost 528 million annual administrative waste from a manual PA processing. It's a huge number, and as you said, 90% of PA workflows is still running on fax. 1 in 3 patients who abandon specialty treatment, due to PA delays. All of these numbers are shocking.
Spot on, Vikash. Yeah. As you said, we also discussed about hundreds of millions of dollars going into this administrative tracking, right? Even AME estimates close to $500 million, as you said. Yeah. That's a huge number, right?
Correct. So now the next segment is about the solution. We spoke about what is the delay, the pharma process in PARA, and then we spoke about the facts and the numbers, data backed by the research that we did. Now let's talk about the solution that you have it for us in this today's episode.
Sure. So we have built a solution called as ClearAuth, basically to have a clear view of the entire authorization process. So the ClearAuth puts the provider, the patient, and the payer on a single shared platform with a real-time case record, three role-specific modules, and a workflow engine. So that's on a very high level about ClearAuth. When we dwell into the modules, for the provider module, what basically happens? A physician prescribes a specialty medication. What our system does is there is an FHIR integration that silently pulls the patient's EHR, clinical data, the diagnosis codes, labs data, prior medical history, PA history, and it grabs all of these things and then it pre-populates the PA form. What usually takes us for HCP and HCP office, maybe can be done in minutes, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And moving on, before you submit that auto-populated PA form, there is also an AA layer, a document analyzer, which reviews uploaded clinical documentation and returns a completeness score. Basically, it does a QC for the HCP office and HCPs with specific gap identification. It does some sort of a gap analysis as well. In case if there are certain records that are missing, let's assume there is a patient who has an history of step therapies and then these step therapy records are missing, our document analyzer will be able to pick that up and then notify it to the HCP. Yeah. And if there is a let's assume a PA has been submitted and a denial is happening, there is also an A layer again acting there for appeals. You will be able to automatically create an appeal email with our appeal generator, and it completely generates a formal version of an email point by point. It also attaches clinical evidence claims, clinical evidence citations, patient history, so on and so forth. What usually takes 2 hours to 3 hours for this appeal can be done soon. This is predominantly for the provider and provider module. When we jump into the patient module, there is a journey tracker for the patients with plain language. It can be customized to any language as per their native preference, and it will list on what step they are at the PA process. There are real-time notifications enabled for patients even before they go and then arrive at a particular pharmacy, they would be notified of all the decisions. If a particular claim has been rejected, there would be explanations what the HCPs can do, what the payers can do. It basically helps them access the guide as well. And now we have covered the provider and the patient, right? Our ClearAuth platform also has a module for payers. We are bringing all patients, payers, and providers together, right? In the payer module, there is a guideline engine that matches us basically the pre-processes against each case. It'll also access the plans coverage before a reviewer opens it, which eventually translate to maybe 50 to 60 percentage of reduction in review time.
That's great. It solves all of the problem in one single interface is what is my understanding. I also understand it's an agnostic platform, be it platform, cloud, AI, or the BI tools that can be integrated through various fast APIs. I get that point. Is in clinical context, right? Is AI trustworthy? This comes up every time when we have customer conversations, right?
Sure, sure. I think that's the very right question to ask. This is how I would like to address this, right? What we do with ClearAuth is we surgically inject or deploy AI. There are points of high manual effort requirements, and there are high error rate requirements. I mean, there are areas where you are prone to make more errors, right? And that's where we basically involve the AI. In our case, the form that basically autofills is actually taking the data from a structured source. It translates to a structured data extraction, which will give us high accuracy, no ambiguity. And we do also have document analyzer, right, which uses a LLM, which is an agnostic solution. You can use any LLM you want, but we have the Claude engine that is integrated into our solution to read through clinical documentation and match it against payer requirements. It gives basically actionable specifics, not vague warnings. So in that manner, we will be able to ensure that A is accurate and it's not hallucinating. Similarly, we also do have appeals generator, right? Which cites peer-reviewed papers, publications, clinical literature. And critically, every A output is labeled. Every submission basically requires a physician review post that, and so the approval. What we are doing is after surgically injecting this AI, it accelerated. We do also have human in the loop intervention. I mean, for review and other purposes, but it accelerates, and we are carefully placing the AI in our solution.
That's very well said. So in all of our customer conversation, it's more about AI guardrails in place and how is the LLM cost has been optimized and so on and so forth. Yeah, lot of pharmas now adopted AI. They are now scaling up from the adoption phase to what we call as crawl, walk, and run
Implementation.
phases. Yes, implementation phases, right? So I also understand all of these innovations and tech innovations, business innovations in agentic AI world, right? For a pharma perspective, it is all about how fast and at the right time the drug or medication is in patient's hand, right? So what does the patient experience looks like specifically in this context?
So, patient experience with this particular function, that is process, prior authorization and reauthorizations. No, I would say it's passive and opaque, full of blockers and challenges. They don't have much visibility. They don't know what's happening to them until they go and talk to a representative at the pharmacy and find out that something is wrong. Our solution, ClearAuth, no, it will give them a visual tracker, and they will be able to see what's happening at each and every step. Plain language explanation. Um, who would be the next person responsible for the progression. It also gives them a realistic timeline in case if there is a denial that's happening, an immediate notification for patients with a clear explanation what went wrong, what to submit next. There is also automatic appeal generator which helps them to appeal easily, quickly. All of these matter commercially. A patient who understands a denial is not final is far more likely to remain engaged in the system, which would be beneficial for patient in terms of his access, as well as to the manufacturers, biotech and pharma company, because they can curb the revenue leakage. Yeah, vis-a-vis a
Okay,
patient
so
who's not into the platform, right? Who
mhm.
just understood that he has been denied of his claim. Yeah.
Okay, so this gives a real time stages, the entire journey of where the reimbursement cycle is, correct? So we spoke about the patient access and how the patient view is there in this platform. I also wanted to know about the market access strategy, right? Why should a manufacturer really care about a platform like this? How do you frame this to a pharma commercial team? Because they are looking at a gross to net formulary placement, a rebate strategy. Where does this particular platform, ClearAuth, fits in that conversation or in that area?
Yeah. So it starts here. You as a pharma company or a biotech company have invested close to 10 to 15 years and potentially many millions to bring a molecule into the market, right? You have gone through FDA approval, you have designed and developed the HUR evidence, negotiated with the payers for formulary placement, and activated a patient support program as well. And after doing all of these things, 1 in 3 patients or 1 in 3 patients who have been prescribed, they drop out. That means they never even get into the therapy. Because predominantly the PA process is too hectic, too tiresome. It's a long cycle and it has failed between prescribing and dispensing. This failure basically doesn't show up clearly in most of the commercial dashboards, in your KPIs, in your reports. Business users and commercial IT users are tracking. It basically shows up as a lost new customer, a
Okay.
persistency, a geographic market share gap, something like this. Okay. I believe ClearAuth is the infrastructure, the platform, the solution that closes this gap, that closes basically the loop between your upstream market access investment and downstream revenue realization.
Got it. See, I'm looking at in the lens of a pharma customer. Like I look in the lens of that. So I have already invested so much in this complete ecosystem, right? How does this fit with the hub of service manufacturers I've already invested in?
I think it would fit well, completely complementary. These patient hub services exist because PA process is lengthy, it's complicated, and the hub services, they are talented teams trying to basically navigate a system with no shared infrastructure. And this ClearAuth is the technology layer these patient hub services they have always needed it. uh, where it has real-time pair connectivity just to get into the features, AI document assistance, multi-stakeholder visibility, and on top of this, our API architecture explicitly supports hub integration. So the biotech and pharma companies, as well as the manufacturers, patient support investment connects to the same workflow engine. I use this analogy. Hub services are a skilled logistics team navigating a city with no GPS. ClearAuth is the navigation infrastructure. It does not replace the hub infrastructure in place, but it complements and then make them better, make them more effective.
I really like that analogy, by the way. We are almost ending the episode. I just wanted to understand where does this go in 3 years?
Yeah. So we can take it by horizons. I believe 3 horizons. Today we are at the juncture of automation, reduce the burden of PA process at the stage where it currently exists. Next horizon or next year, basically full scale integration. The authorization happens in background as the prescription is written. I mean, kind of a parallel processing via FHIR, no manual handoffs in the chain. In the third horizon or in the year 3, we can also see predictive denial prevention before the physician selects a drug. Our ClearAuth solution will be matured in a stage where it can vote the approval likelihood for a particular patient for that specific drug and payer combination. It can also flag the documentation gaps. So prior authorization stops being a barrier and then it starts being a clinical decision, a decision support at the moment of prescribing. That's the version of maturity which we are envisioning without any of the access delays that it defines. That is basically defined today.
Okay, that's really great. So also, this is the final question from the episode. One thing you want listeners to walk away with, be it from the patient access lens or the market access lens, and how promising is ClearAuth?
Yeah. So every conversation about patient access, adherence, and time to therapy is ultimately a conversation about whether the operational infrastructure of market access can deliver on the promise that clinical development and the payer contracting has been made. I think ClearAuth is built to deliver on the promise. Yeah.
So that's really great to have you here, Jnanaram. As I always say, all your answers were sharp, precise as always. And thank you so much. Maybe in the next episode, we will have ClearAuth platform live demo for our customers and for multiple other stakeholders. Thanks for taking time. I know you are busy running behind the timelines and the deadlines for the customer demo. Thank you so much. Until next time, this is Vikash signing off. Thank you.
Thanks, Vikash. Looking forward to it. Yeah.